Thanks for tuning in to Mystery Caution as we take a look at Dover Motor Speedway for this Saturday, the 27th of April. And we have ourselves both final practice times as well as qualifying times. So that's what we're going to go over here today. Don't forget, a little bit later on in this report, actually I'm going to edit in our show, our edited show, from Prime Sports Network, which we recorded on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, and that's usually our schedule. We're recording our race preview with CJ Verdoon of RotoWire.com every Tuesday. We come back here on Mystery Caution to update you on the practice and qualifying, if there is practice and qualifying for every NASCAR Cup Series race, including, of course, this week at Dover. So let's get right to it. And why don't we start, first of all, with taking a look at practice times right now, the way they look, with Ryan Blaney, who is on top of the charts here, defending Cup champ. And it's look, the way that this is going to turn out, actually, as far as what was the story of the day. Well, the story of the day was these three drivers here: Blaney, Reddick, Byron. They were the dominant drivers today. Look at Jimmy Johnson, 5th. He didn't qualify well, but he sure did put together a good practice run. And then take a look at some of these surprises down here. Truex, 25th. Look, Larson, 21st. Truex, 25th. And then interesting that Noah Gragson was 34th, even though he had a good qualifying run. So interesting. Gragson qualified really well. Practiced not so good. Flipped that with Jimmy Johnson, which, again, kind of interesting. Matter of fact, and don't forget, just want to remind everybody, we're taking a look at J-Ski. There you go. J-Ski's silly season site. All right, so here you go. You got Gragson 5th. Where's Jimmy Johnson? He's all the way down to 27th. So interesting. All right, but there you go. Kyle Busch wins the pole, and based on the history of winning the pole at this track, that's a negative. We'll get into that. You got Blaney, there you got Byron, you got Reddick. So that's what I was talking about. As far as some of the surprises, Kyle Larson, 21st. Chase Elliott, 29th. Christopher Bell, 33rd, because he spun out. And there you go. So that's what we are going to be talking about here on the show today. And here is a big, this is a big note. Very big. The weather. All right. So I think they started out in the 50s. I believe it was the 50s for qualifying. Keep in mind, they will be racing at about 83 degrees tomorrow when they start the race. That is a major difference. Major difference in weather change. So, and it's quite possible that has a lot to do with the reason why qualifying does not matter very much. So that is something that you have to keep in mind. So again, if you like a driver, and we talked about this on Tuesday, if you like a driver, the best thing that you wanted to do is not qualify that well. Now, I don't really like some of these drivers that had the bad qualifying and the bad practice runs. That combination, that does worry me, though. But you'll get a benefit with the odds. Okay, so let's go through some key trends here. First of all, this is one of 3, Dover, 1-mile tracks. What is the biggest difference between Phoenix and New Hampshire? Well, Phoenix and New Hampshire are flat tracks. All right, Dover is both concrete and has higher banking. That makes it significantly different, even though, since it's a 1-mile track, and they raced at Phoenix this year, we will take a look at the Phoenix record. New Hampshire, we don't have it, so we don't care. We're not going to take a look at last year. Also, the concrete track, which is the other one that we've seen this year, Bristol. So we're going to take a look at 2 tracks when we're handicapping the race this week. We've already done that, of course. Bristol, Phoenix, to go along with Dover. Now, what's interesting is, when we looked at this the other day, Toyota was the strong manufacturer because they had the top 2 at Bristol, and Gibbs led 137 laps at Bristol, even though he finished 9th. At Phoenix, Toyota won the race with Christopher Bell, who just spun out in practice today. So that's kind of interesting because if you look at it, Toyota not looking all that great so far. In qualifying, they only had 2 drivers in the top 14. So that is here. Reddick was 4th and Hamlin was 6th. That's it. So But again, the temperature changes. That's going to be where you're going to have to do a little bit double thinking regarding the strategy that you want to employ in handicapping the race this week. Okay. This is what I said. 3 of the last 4 started outside the top 15. The other was the fourth position. And by the way, that driver in the 4th position to win was Chase Elliott. He did that in the first year of the new car in 2022. No pole sitters have won since 2010. That's 0 for 23. So Kyle Busch, you're in trouble. But this is interesting, and this is going to help Ryan Blaney. The number 2 position has won 7 times since 2010. That's 5 of the last 12 races. Wow. Excuse me, and 5 of the last 12. So that's also going to help Blaney Byron Reddick, that 2 spot especially. Okay. So now, let's combine what happened today. Oh, wait. Let's also move on to the final trend. Just a quick one. 6 different winners, last 6 races. And the stat about Ford only winning 1 of the last 8. And look, Blaney's second in that second position that we talked about. But look, Ford was 3 of the top 5. They had 3 of the top 5 finishes at Phoenix. All right, so the other 1 mile track, they did pretty good, Ford. And they're looking pretty decent so far today with 4 of the top 8 in qualifying. Now, what I want to do is give you a quick update on the odds, what we went through this past Tuesday, and the update, and how we're going to handicap the race, even though we don't have the new odds out yet. All right, Kyle, the fact that he's first, yeah, I am going to work that against him. But how much will I work it against him? Keep in mind, we talked about this the other day. We mentioned the fact that Kyle was probably not a bad option because he was 19-1. And get this, he won in 2017. That was his last of 3 wins, okay? And if you look at since that win in 2017, okay, he led, this is with the old car, he led only 25 laps in the 7 races before the 2017 win. So in other words, 2017 gets the win, next 7 races he leads a combined 25 laps. That's not very good. But then the new car comes out. 2022 he led 103 laps. Last year he led 25 laps, and where did he start? The pole. Where did he finish? 21st. So the only good, and Phoenix 22nd, Bristol 25th. So the only good thing was Kyle Busch was at 19-1. Now if you could still get him at 15-1, that range, all right, it's not a bad long shot play. But if he drastically comes down the chart from the pole, I wouldn't go with it, especially after practicing 12th. Okay, but the next 3 drivers, again, this is the story today. You got Blaney second in practice, Byron third, Reddick fourth. Qualifying, excuse me, I got it opposite. In qualifying, it was Blaney, Byron, Reddick 2, 3, 4. In practice, it was Blaney first, Reddick second, Byron third. So based on those numbers, it's looking pretty good for those 3 drivers. So when you looked at, and Blaney was someone that we talked about, it was just the odds. We wanted better odds than 13-1. Now, the question is, how will that drop? I think it's going to drop considerably. I think Blaney will probably go off around 7 or 8-1. It's up to you if you want to go with him. He was 5th at Phoenix. He's been better here lately. Matter of fact, 3rd last year was his best finish ever. And you would think this would be a good track for him. Matter of fact, his last 4 Xfinity Series races, he finished 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 4th. So he's still not a bad play. If you can get him at 8-1, 9-1, anything less than that, I don't know. Maybe you hurt your chance, but still not a bad idea. Now, Byron also is a good idea. Matter of fact, I believe CJ had Byron. Yes, he had Byron at his second top pick on Tuesday. And now he should be even stronger. Now, he was 7-1. Last year, led 193 laps, finished 4th. It was clearly his best ever result. I think he might go off the favorite, though, because he's 7-1 to start with. Where is he going to go? If he goes below 5, I pass. 4, it's cutting it. But 5, 6, I don't think you'll get that. It's up to you. Reddick, he was 19-1. So this might be the one that you're going to benefit from, because I don't know how much he can drop. Like Blaney, you would think would drop to about 7-1, 6-1 at the worst. Reddick, I can't imagine he's going to drop from 19 to like 7-1. If he does, yeah, I'm not sure I'd take that, because keep in mind, Reddick has never had a top 5 and never led a lap at Dover, and he doesn't have a top 5 in either of the races, either of the races we spoke about, Phoenix or Bristol. So if you could still get him, 10-1, 12-1, that range, I'd go for it. I would not go for it if he's lower than that. You lost your shot in my mind. But fantasy-wise, I mean, it's not a bad idea. I guess it all depends on what your fantasy game is. And that's why if you have any questions regarding fantasy, and we'll talk more about this with CJ on Tuesdays, just let us know. Let us know what's on your mind regarding fantasy, because everybody has specific contests, and they have specific leagues and things of that nature. So, you want us to give you some information, whether it's on our Tuesday show, after our Tuesday show, or before it. That would even be helpful. And you might say, well, how do I get information out there before it? The races, I mean, I can't comment on something that's not, the video is not there. That's why you check out our Discord. You go on Discord and you can ask me anything you want before our Tuesday race, and I'll come prepared for the Tuesday show. And then for this one as well here, all you have to do is ask us. You can ask me on Tuesday on YouTube, and we'll let you know, or I'll let you know. Regarding, or I can just respond if you have any questions after I post this video. Okay, now, who else is interesting? Well, I would go with, you can't rule out, of course, Denny Hamlin. He's starting 6th, his 11th practice, not a big drop, not too worried about that, especially with the temperatures. Remember, he's in a Toyota. He started at 7-1, so if I'm still getting 7-1, I'm fine. I think that's fair. I might even go with Hamlin at 7-1. But if he drops, like if he's 5-1, nah, forget that. He hasn't earned 5-1. He still should be at 7-1. But we liked him a lot when we talked about him the other day. Matter of fact, I believe Hamlin was our second top choice coming in. So right now, out of our choices on Tuesday, he has all of a sudden jumped up. I mean, my specific Tuesday forecast, which had a lot of Toyotas in it, has gone backwards. So I'm not very happy about that, but Hamlin would be the one that I would be the most interested in at this point. Okay, but again, it's this is why it's up to you whether you want to pay a lot of attention to qualifying. Well, practice is different, but if we're just talking qualifying, it's up to you, because the last 3 of the last 4 winners started 16th, 17th, and 17th. So in that respect, my top driver, Martin Truex Jr., he's starting 15th. So let's talk about that. Now, he practiced 25th, though. That's not good at all. So here's what I'm thinking. Okay, well, was he 6-1? Well, if he's still 6-1, screw you. All right, screw you. After what he looked like today, if you're not going to give me a break on 6-1, then I'm not interested. But if you give me a break, all right, he's 8-1, 10-1, 12-1, something like that, then I'm interested. Now you've given me a fair break, and I'm going to take a look at Truex. Okay, Bell was another one. I mean, but we have to keep in mind, you spin out, you spin out. Sometimes that's a red flag regarding the kind of weekend you're going to have. And he didn't do all that much better 19th in practice. So 33rd, excuse me, in qualifying after spinning out in practice. So actually, did I? No. Is it reverse? He spun out in qualifying and was 19th in practice. So because of that, I don't really see a whole lot other than to say, well, it's going to be warmer out on Sunday, and I better get a break because he was 10-1. And remember, we liked him because with the new car, he was good at this track. He won Phoenix. He's got 2 wins out of 4 in the Xfinity Series at this track. So if I'm still, if he was 10-1 the other day, he's got to be what, 15-1 now? So I would definitely look at Christopher Bell as a nice little long shot. But you better give me a break here with those odds, or else screw you. All right. Who else? Let's now talk about some of the drivers that did qualify and practice well that I did not have a complete look at or interest at. Chase Briscoe. Okay, Chase just continues to be off to a nice start. He was 55-1 on Tuesday. No top 10s and never led a lap at Dover in 3 starts. So that's the reason why we said, nah, not interested. But let's see what happens in qualifying, and here we go. Now, he's proven himself. Also, both top 15s in Phoenix and Bristol. He's got a win in 5 Xfinity Series races here. The odds will drop, but if I still am going to get between 20 and 30-1 or higher, I would definitely look at Briscoe as an intriguing long shot. Next up, McDowell. Boy, he just continues to impress, doesn't he? He starts 8th. He practiced 6th. And when we talked about him the other day, 100-1, we didn't have much to say. Never had a top 15 here. Average of 30.6. Okay, but keep in mind, he had 9 DNFs in his first 11 appearances here. So he's been better in his last, 12 appearances. And we know he's qualified well the last few weeks. But, yeah, I mean, I guess what I would do is if I'm still getting between 50 and 100-1, I want to throw a buck on Micah McDowell. But, hey, you know what? We'll keep an eye on him now because he's starting to, a couple of weeks in a row, it's looking pretty decent at least. And look, 2 completely different tracks, too. Matter of fact, he should have won the race last week. But it is what it is. Okay. Also, I would look at, that's it as far as like the drivers that really impressed. Blaney, Byron Reddick, they're in a league by their own. Briscoe, McDowell would be the 2 long shots that have been the most impressive. Talked about Truex and his disappointment. That's a major disappointment. Bell's a disappointment. Larson's a major disappointment. This is why, in certain situations, especially with the qualifying the way that it is here, why I just don't understand why anybody would take Kyle Larson at 4-1 midweek. Just makes no sense. He's coming into this race with 21 place finishes the last two events. Okay, he was 32nd last year here. Led 19 laps in 2022, finishing 6th. This is with the new car, nothing special. I understand, though, with the old car, in his two last races with the old car, 1st and 2nd, and he led over 400 combined laps. But this is a new car. And with the new car, he was 5th at Bristol, 14th at Phoenix. He's real slow this weekend. I don't know if the odds are going to change dramatically. This is Kyle Larson. So unless you're going to give me 10 or 15-1, but if you just go 5-1, 6-1, it's Kyle Larson, he'll do well. Well, you can keep your money. Chase Elliott, 11-1, 2 wins out of 13. Okay, had a win with the new car in 2022, as we mentioned, from the 4th position, leading 73 laps. But he hasn't led a lap in 3 of the last 4 races. After the one good one. Nope, that counts. And the last time he didn't qualify pretty well, he won the race a few weeks ago. Because, look, he's qualified 29th, but he had an 8th place practice session. So if I'm getting 15-1 from Chase Elliott, if I'm getting better odds than what I got on Tuesday, hey, I'm going to think about it as a interesting long shot. Keselowski's a big disappointment. Busch are better, though, the 2 teammates there, because we liked both of them on Tuesday, but the qualifying effort's not there. Keselowski did move up to 15th in practice, or was better in practice than he was in qualifying, and the same thing for Buescher. Buescher was better in practice than he was in qualifying. He practiced 10th, qualifying 18th. But they're in that, Buescher's in that kind of interesting spot, that sweet spot of starting 18th. So based on the trends. So I'm still interested in Buescher, especially when he was 20-1 the other day. I'm still getting 20-1, I guess. So I'm still interested in Buescher. Keselowski, I'm interested still, but not as much as Buescher. And that's a shame because I really thought Keselowski could break through finally this week. But now I'm not so sure. And Chastain could be interesting because he will qualify 22nd, but he had a top 10 practice run. Now, as far as his overall history, Chastain, we did not like him on Tuesday at all because he was 7-1. Did not understand. In a way, we did because if you look at it, last 2 appearances with the new car, 2nd and 3rd at Dover, led at least 86 laps in both races. In his last 2 Xfinity Series races at Dover, 2nd and 3rd. Nice combination. Okay, nothing special though so far this year. 6th at Phoenix, 15th at Bristol. That was okay, but not 7-1. At least this now gives me a reason to take them because you got to give me 10-1. You have to. If you give me 10-1, 15-1, something in that range, now I'm interested. Even though the speed isn't there so far, but now I'm interested because at least you practice 7th, and that gives me a reason. You're still going to give me 7-1 or in that range, then I'm not interested. Gibbs, a little bit surprised, but maybe not so much. He does not look very fast so far. Wallace, the same thing. Logano, 13th and 13th in both. And, just trying to take a look. Yeah, matter of fact, the only other driver that we had an interest in, Gibbs we did. Gibbs and Bowman, we kind of had an interest in on Tuesday, but I don't know. I just don't know if Gibbs can come back after the way things looked today. And Bowman has been really strong at this racetrack. So disappointing to see how he practice, because that practice speed, not very good at all. Outside the top 20, he will qualify, though, in the top 10. So that combination leads me to believe I'm going to get good odds still on Bowman. So I'll be okay. I'll probably still stick with Bowman as a long shot only. As for Gibbs, he was 16-1 the other day. I can't imagine those odds are going to get any better or any worse, I should say. So they should be good. I still should get that, if not more. Maybe I'll get 20-1. I might not be swayed then, hoping it's the weather. And maybe Gibbs is still a pretty decent long shot only choice. Okay. And let's see, anybody else? Again, Larson, very disappointing, 21st in both. Logano, 13th. I guess he's the last one to talk about. He was 13th in both sessions. And taking a look at Logano, we did not really like him. Why? Because he led 40. He's led 41 career laps at Dover in 27 races. He's been terrible here with the new car. He's been bad at Phoenix and Bristol. So, yeah, 13th and 13th gives us no reason at all to change our mind with Joey Logano. And that is going to wrap it up. So, again, if you have any questions, comments at all, anything that we could help you along with here to give you some help on making your selections in fantasy or in handicapping, let us know in the comments section. And if you enjoy the videos that we're putting out there, please subscribe also, and subscribe to both Prime Sports Network and Mystery Caution, and let us know what you think. Again, Discord, you get the links there. We'll try to update the link. CJ, hopefully I'll get the link from him soon so we could post that for RotoWire for his report for the race. And that'll wrap it up. Next week, which is actually just coming up in a couple of days, we're going to be talking about Kansas. That's the next stop for us. And then after Kansas is Darlington. It's the All-Star race after that. Wow, the All-Star race is here already. All right, Kansas, Darlington. That's our next two here. So check us out both on Tuesdays on Prime Sports Network and Saturdays on Mystery Caution. And now we are going to segue into the edited version of what we talked about on Tuesday. CJ Radoon of RotoWire.com joined me for our preview of the Wurth 400 at Dover Motor Speedway. And again, that was over on Prime Sports Network. Let's take a look. So we've got the Wurth 400. Here are the odds that we're throwing in there. Kyle Larson being at 4-1. I'm kind of surprised in a little way. He's become, and I know he's got a championship, but he's kind of become like the number one driver. as far as he's the guy that's going to get all the benefit of the doubt when it comes to on a weekly basis, outside, of course, of the super speedways or the road courses, but mostly the super speedways. He's the guy that is going to get the benefit of the doubt as always being the favorite.
Yeah. And since we're talking about Kyle's, I'll go back. I shorted Kyle Petty by a few. He won 8. But okay. Anyway, on the topic of Kyle Larson, the reason why he's getting it here at Dover, 32nd last year, not good at all. But he's got the best average finish of the active drivers at this track, 8.6 across 15 starts at the track. Yeah, he only has 1 win, but he does have 7 top 5s and 11 top 10s. He led 263 laps in the spring race in 2021. He led 154 laps in the fall race of 2019. So he's had a couple races here, probably like 4 or 5, where he's led 100 or more laps, and he's got the best average finish. So while Larson hasn't had a whole heck of a lot of consistency this season, which is why he's not further up the charts in terms of the actual points themselves, Dover is a place where he has shown consistency in the past. The question is just whether or not, like you started out, is he going to be able to compete against the Toyotas? And I think if there's anybody that can, it's going to be somebody from the Hendrick stable. So why not Larson?
Yeah, you see, the thing, I guess the point I want to make is that, and we'll get into it, of course, is that I think that, when you're talking about Truex, Byron, Hamlin, Bell, Elliott, I mean, to me, I see very similar stats that tell me that they're should be every bit as competitive as Larson in this race. But because Kyle Larson's Kyle Larson, he's just always going to be the favorite, even if his stats look equal to everybody else. And because, look, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go in, because we talk about the fact that it's hard taking these drivers at 4-1, and so you always want to find warts. Well, here are the warts. Last 2 finishes, 21st. Finishes at Phoenix and Bristol, 5th and 14th. That's nothing special. Last 2 races with the new car, 32nd and 6th, led a combined 19 laps. I'm not seeing a whole lot to tell me that Kyle Larson should be 4-1 compared to these other drivers.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you one bit. The warts on the others, certainly from a Truex perspective, is going to be kind of where has he been so far this season. He's probably had 1 or 2 races where he's been competitive enough to win. Just hasn't been able to pull it through. He started 17th at Dover last year, but ended up leading 68 laps and winning. And you look at the laps led, he's consistently at the front regardless of where he starts here. So, I mean, 132, 15, 8, 88, 0, 16, 5, and 68 out of laps led out of his last 7 races here at this track. And that's, starts of 13th, 19th, 18th, 17th, and a couple within the top 5 as well. So Truex is very consistent. Like I said with Larson here at this track, if there's a place that he can get it done, certainly this could be the second time or maybe third time this season where he's competitive enough to win a race. I think winning back-to-back races, so defending the race win that he had last year, obviously a little bit harder to do, but that would be the warts that you've got there on Truex.
And keep in mind that even last year, Truex was off to a slow start. And what was his first win was this race. So once again, it's not like he's having a solid start, of course, better than last year. But the point is that I think because of the odds, sitting there, you're getting a couple of extra points. He's the defending champ, yes, but I look at that as a positive, because if Kyle Larson was defending champ, his odds would probably be a little bit lower. Also, throw in the fact that Truex was 7th at Phoenix, 2nd at Bristol, so he was a lot better on these concrete tracks than Larson was. And let's remember the Phoenix race when he finished 7th. That was a race where it was really based, I believe it was a pit stop situation. He didn't get a break. He had to pit. He came back, and if there was like another caution, I think he would have had a really good chance to win the race if there would have been a few extra laps, all that kind of stuff. And he did lead 55 laps in that race, and then led 54 laps in the second place finish over in Bristol. So That's why I think Truex is a really solid play here, and why I think he's in a better situation. Also based on the odds. I mean, you're getting 6-1 versus 4-1. Not a big deal, but definitely enough for me to say that Martin Truex Jr. is ready to go out and get his first win of the season. Okay, so now we take a look at a few of the other Chevys that are in the same odds range as Truex. But I'm a little bit surprised, actually, that Byron's 7 and Elliott's 11. So that surprised me a little bit that you're getting 4 extra points on Elliott. He's won here just recently, so he's got 2 wins. He's always raced here well. He's got 9 top 5s out of 13. I mean, that's really impressive. I know Byron had a big result last year. I get it. He led 193 laps and finished 4th. Before that, he hadn't really done much. He had a few top 5s. That was it. But the other thing is that Byron has not looked good at Phoenix or Bristol. Elliott, I'm willing to be a little bit more forgiving because he was trying to figure the car out, and now he's a lot better. So I'm not saying Elliott should be ahead of Byron here. I'm just a little bit surprised you're getting 11-1 on Elliott as opposed to 7-1 on Byron.
Yeah, I think Byron's getting the momentum boost here because he's been the hottest driver so far this season, aside from Denny Hamlin, perhaps. So Byron with the tons of laps led last year, very good result. Finally, perhaps figuring out this track, and then you add in the momentum that he's had early in 2024. I think there's still probably people that are on the fence from the Chase Elliott slump, and he's figured it out for sure. He's definitely getting much better results than he has for the past probably year and a half at this point. Win in 2022 at the track, finished 11th, which wasn't bad last year when he was in the midst of his slump for sure. So I think it is interesting, but Byron's probably riding the 2024 momentum.
Okay, and then we see Chastain and Hamlin. See, in my mind, I think Hamlin should be the favorite of this race, or at least co-favorite. He has very good history here. I know he's only won once, but overall, it's a good history. It's not elite, like, matter of fact, if you look at Truex, who is my top pick, he's been more impressive than Hamlin. But Hamlin has a good history. And more important is that he looks really, really good on these concrete tracks so far this year. Which, remember that even though when he finished 11th at Phoenix, he got a little impatient there racing Chastain late and got into him, totally ruined his day. Led 68 laps, probably should have won or finished second. And then came back in Bristol and led 163 laps and won. So I really, and Hamlin's having a strong start to the season. So yeah, I think Hamlin should at least be a co-favorite to Truex, or maybe even the overall favorite based on the start he's having this year, which is better than Truex. But hey, I'm going to try to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think if anybody's, looking for any kind of value, Hamlin certainly offers it, just by virtue of what he did at Bristol. It's funny that he and Chastain had another run-in, but that's beside the point. They got to stay away from each other on the track, but that goes back a long way. But yeah, Hamlin, he's only got 1 win here, but he's led laps like Truex has in 5 of the last 6 here at Dover, and a lot of laps, quite honestly. He's got that win. He finished 5th in last year's race. I do agree. I'm surprised that Hamlin's not in your top 3 in terms of the favorites. And then Chastain's been really, really good here recently too. I mean, 3rd and 2nd in the last 2 races, and he has led 86 and 98 laps in both of those. So I do think Hamlin should be up in the top 3. I think Ross Chastain is another, probably, honestly, should probably be getting better odds than maybe even Byron.
Yeah, I will say this, though, is that let's keep in mind Chastain has 1 top 5 on the year. And the other negative is he didn't really perform all that well at Bristol. He was okay at Phoenix. So when I take a look at all the positives, which you mentioned, and including the fact, by the way, in his last 2 Xfinity Series starts, he finished 2nd and 3rd. So that's his last 2 Xfinity Series starts, and his last 2 Cup Series starts were second and third, as you mentioned. So there's a lot of positives, but to 7-1, that's what takes me away from it. I wanted him at 9-1 or 10-1, and thought at that price I was I like Chastain, but at 7-1, that's what backs me off.
I guess I'm operating the bank side, right? So from a payout perspective, I want more people to lose. Therefore, I would have put Chastain's odds higher just because of that recent momentum at this track. You're right. Byron's getting the momentum from 2024. Chastain is not. I think Chastain's got a better record at the track, even with Byron's dominant, even though he didn't win, performance last year.
Because this is actually the next driver is really where I thought I was going to get Chastain, which is why I really like Christopher Bell, because we're getting 10-1 on Bell. So that's the odds I want on a driver that, with the new car, finished 6th and 4th, won Phoenix this year, top 10 at Bristol, and in the Xfinity Series, is 4 races. The one race he had carburetor issues. The other 3, all in the top 5 with 2 wins. So this is a really good track for Christopher Bell. And because of that, the one thing is he hasn't raced all that great the last several races, so he's in a little bit of a rut, that kind of deal. But I'm willing to take that, considering I'm getting 10-1 on a driver that goes to a track that he really likes.
Yeah, Bell was somebody who was on my mind for this race prior to seeing the odds and all that good stuff, as was Hamlin. And when you look at his Bristol's result, still a top 10 there, like you said. So a lot of top 10s to start off the season. Kind of trailed off here in the last 3 races. He could really use some good result this weekend to turn things back around for himself. 4th and 6th in his last 2 here. He did start 2nd last year. That's the magic spot apparently, but I didn't convert that into a win. I think I do like Bell quite a bit this weekend at Dover.
All right, and then you've got Blaney at 13, Gibbs and Bowman at 16. Now, Blaney, I think the odds are fine. If they were any less, I would ignore it. If I was actually hoping for a little bit better, but 13 is okay if you're looking for a middling kind of long shot play. And that's only because Blaney has just been. I mean, he doesn't have a great history here, but what I'm really looking at is the fact that last year, his most recent, he finished 3rd, which was his best finish. He also has demonstrated that he could be very good at Phoenix, and he finished 5th earlier this year. He can be good at Bristol, but has had maybe his results just haven't picked up with the fact that sooner or later he's going to win there. And in his last 4 Xfinity Series races at Dover, he's finished 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 4th. So this is also a pretty decent track for him, but it's finally starting to pick up in Cup. It's just a number that's a little bit, I'm on the fence with the number.
Yeah. From a Bowman perspective, like I said at the beginning, I think if there's any group that can challenge the Joe Gibbs Toyotas, I'm taking Bowman certainly before I go with Elliott. From a Blaney perspective, kind of middle of the road. He has potential, but he's just not impressing me here at Dover. So I'm going to avoid him for that reason. He's going to kind of have to turn around his Dover performances in order to make me want to go for him, certainly at that number. I do think it's about right, but again, nothing special, especially when I can get Bowman there for a little bit better as well. And if you want to flyer, Gibbs, I mean, the Joe Gibbs Toyotas have been very strong. Gibbs is a very strong driver. So when is he actually going to take advantage of that equipment and put it into victory lane? You got your teammates winning on both of the like tracks on the series or on the calendar so far this season. So can he come from his 13th position in this race last year? He started 24th. So he worked his way forward. That's a really good result. Of the 3 there, certainly I would go with Bowman. Gibbs would be next, and then Blaney would be 3rd.
Yeah, I would have preferred Blaney at 16-1 with Gibbs and Bowman, but I didn't get it, which is why I agree. I think Gibbs and Bowman can't miss kind of middle long shot plays. Bowman, 5 top fives, a runner-up and a win in his last 6. Didn't have, of course, an opportunity to race here last year. 4th at Bristol. And then and of course, won here in 2021. And then Gibbs, as you said, the Toyota. Even though he doesn't have a top 10 in his last 4 races this year, he was 3rd at Phoenix, led 57 laps, and was a very strong 9th at Bristol, leading 137 laps that I mentioned before. Has 2 top 5s and 2 Xfinity Series starts here as well. So I agree. I think Gibbs and Bowman, you have to play these drivers at 16-1. Then you have Reddick and Kyle at 19-1. Reddick got his win last week, and considering the fact that he doesn't have a top 5 here over his 5 starts, and he's never let a lap here, and he really didn't have any great results in the concrete races this year so far, he's a pass. Kyle still needs to be a pass based on the fact that he hasn't gotten out of his rut yet. So this is one of those races that I think is going to be important for him because he's had a lot of really good runs here over his career. But out of 13 top 5s and 35 career races, he only has 1 since his 2017 win, and he has not finished inside the top 20 or in the top 20 in either either the concrete Bristol race or the 1 mile race at Phoenix.
Yeah, very interesting there. I agree with you on all fronts. I think Reddick just hasn't shown it. He snuck in to the victory, like you said, last week. It's also extremely hard to win back-to-back races. So having the momentum that he has, winning back-to-back weeks, it's going to be a tall order, especially considering his performance on these types of tracks earlier this season. And like you said, Kyle Busch is a hard pass right now. If there was any place that Busch in a Richard Childress racing car should have excelled, it should have been Talladega. It looked like it was shaping up to be that way when he qualified quite well for the weekend, but then in the race basically showed nothing. He got stage points in one of the segments and then led a handful of laps and finished way down the order. So I think his woes continue. Richard Childress Racing, Austin Dillon fell into the same category last week. I think they, as an organization, still have a long road to go before we start choosing them again.
The only good thing about Kyle, if you want to take a look at it, coming into this race is based on his history at this track, is that last year he won the pole, but finished a disappointing 21st. And then in the 2022 race, he led 103 laps. So in the 2 races with the new car, he had impressive runs both years. Still didn't finish in the top 5 in either race. Okay, next up we have Joey Logano, Chris Buescher, and Brad Keselowski between 20 and 22-1. Now, Logano is going to be a pass for me. Didn't race well at Phoenix or Bristol. Hasn't raced well either. If you look at the last couple of races here. And by the way, he only has led 41 career laps in 27 races. That's pretty bad. But Buescher and Keselowski, I'm playing both of them. Buescher, we're getting, and the long shot numbers are pretty good, but Buescher did not have a good history here. But the last 2 races, both top 10s, take a look at his last 4 starting positions in this race: 5th, 1st, 10th, and 5th. That's an average of basically 5th. So he started 5th on an average in the last 4 races here. In 4 Xfinity Series races, he has an average finish of 6th. With a win in 2015. He finished 2nd at Phoenix, 7th at Bristol. Keselowski I like even better. How can you not, based on the fact that he's been runner-up in his last 2 races, and he was 4th at Phoenix, 3rd at Bristol. Now, he doesn't have a great resume here, even though he does have a win. And he's only led 17 laps in his last 6 races. But this year, with the new car, the new team, maybe he's just going to be better than he was with Penske. It's kind of looks like it's shaping up to maybe finally be the week that Brad Keselowski gets a win.
That would be awesome. It'd be a long time coming. I agree. I was excited for Keselowski to come to this track because I thought he could emulate the win that he had back in 2012. That was a long time ago. He did start on pole in 2016, but like you said, he's only led 17 laps here over the past 5 or 6 races. However, he's been learning. He's taken a step forward since last season. Buescher figured it out. Like you said, the last 2 races at this track, Buescher had great results. I think it's wise to take him again this year. I think he's going to have another top 10, may even be in there in the mix for the win. But the real improvement from year to year has not been Buescher. He's stayed kind of steady. It's been Keselowski. I think Keselowski has been closer to a win this year than he has been even last year. And he was pretty close a couple of times last year as well. And specifically at these types of tracks, this type of track in particular really plays to the RFK Racing strengths, the concrete hard surface, where they really maximize their tire wear, or minimize, I should say, their tire wear. They can maximize their grip throughout the run, as well as just the fact that they've been performing well on the high bank, shorter types of ovals recently too. So I like both of them. I think either one of them could win. My heart wants to say Keselowski, but my head is going to say I'd go with Buescher, then Keselowski, then Logano.
All right, and now as we get to the long shots, the most interesting long shots. And by the way, Eric Jones is not racing this week.
Correct.
What's
broken vertebrae?
Okay.
Broken vertebrae just came out today. So unfortunately, his crash at Talladega, which was a hard one, head on into the wall. He said he felt back pain when they took him to the infield care center. So they ended up taking him to the hospital. He was released, but later diagnosed with a fractured vertebrae. So he's at least out this week.
Okay. So the top long shots I'm looking at, or deep long shots, there would be 3 of them, would be Wallace at 30-1 and Briscoe and Berry at 55-1. Wallace has actually been getting incrementally better here. If you take a look at it, in his first 8 races at Dover, he had an average finish of 23.8. In his last 3, he has an average finish of 13th. And also, in the Xfinity Series, he had an average of 10.2, which is pretty good, including 2 poles and a runner-up. So this has been a pretty good track for Wallace over his career, and he's just, especially in the Xfinity Series, and now he's finally starting to pick it up in the Cup Series, even though he's never had a top 10, and he's never led a lap. Briscoe, I just like the odds. That's basically all that is. I like the fact that he's off to a better start this year. He's also had very good success here in Xfinity Series. He's been okay at Phoenix and Bristol. And Berry is just one of those, well, look, it's his first Cup race, I believe, here. And that's just going to be really tough. And he's not going to win his first Cup race at Dover. It's to be really, that's why he's 55-1, though. Because if you take a look at his 3 Xfinity Series results, you can't get much better than first, second, and second. So that's the reason why I would just, if you want to throw a buck or 2 on these 3 drivers, okay. Even though I won't expect any of them to win. But, because Dover, as hard as a track it is, it just shows you that it's the drivers, you got to have experience here.
Yeah, I think experience certainly plays into it at a track like this. But, Xfinity experience counts as well. And we saw Berry step into Martinsville with Chase Elliott's car and do quite well, and he did well there earlier this season as well. So first, second, like you said, in his 3 Xfinity starts, just it doesn't get much better than that. He and Briscoe, certainly of the long shots that we've got out here, would be the 2 that I would take, and more so on Berry's side than Briscoe. But both on the same team, both with similar equipment, both should have pretty good days, I would think.
And the only other drivers I wanted to throw out there, just stats-wise, Cindric, not good in the 2 Cup races, but 7 Xfinity Series races. His average finish is 4.6 with a win. Suarez, if you take a look, you go, wow, 5 top 10s out of 11. That's good for Suarez. But consider this, in his first 6 appearances, he had an average of 8.6. His last 5 appearances, 23.2. So, not so good. And that's pretty much going to wrap up from what I see as far as because again, it's not going to be the long shots at Dover. It just doesn't happen very often.
Nope, totally agree. Like I said, Briscoe and Berry. Briscoe's back to kind of where he was at the beginning part of last season before that penalty ended up really tanking their season. He started to come back a little toward the end last year. But of the Fords, I don't think it's going to be a Penske day. I think it'll be a Stewart-Haas leading the way kind of day. Aside from RFK, I think Keselowski and Busch certainly have the upper hand. But of the long shots, I would still stick with Berry and Briscoe.
Okay, so top three, I'm going to go with Truex, Hamlin, and Bell. The other drivers that I definitely like are going to be Gibbs, Bowman, Buescher, and Keselowski. What about you?
Hamlin, Byron, and Truex for me at the top. In the middle, I'm thinking Keselowski and Buescher. And I will go with Berry as my long shot.
Yeah, that's... Just find out if qualifying will definitely help. Won't tell us everything, but it'll definitely help.